Welcome back to the Star Trek Critic, and within 10 seconds of this episode starting, 1 point is already lost, since the captain and first officer should never beam down together on a strange planet. One of them should always be on the ship. And in this episode, they beam down more red shirts, because they're going to go through them real fast. As you can see, this time they beam down 4 security guards, and they're going to go through all 4. This episode is The Apple. The Enterprise crew was sent to explore a planet that at first looks hospitable. The previous scout ship didn't say much about the planet, like the plants and rocks can kill you. I think they just scouted from a flyby 10 light years away. The first observations are quite positive, but just like the show, the planet will start with 100 points and lose 1 point for each error. Like here, where Spock says the temperature is 76 degrees. That would be Fahrenheit, not Celsius, so minus 1 point. Eventually, I will have to take a point for Chekhov's constant Russian references. However, this one is in defense of McCoy correcting him. Of course, McCoy could have said it reminded him of Georgia or any warm, humid southern state, or Hawaii, but instead he said the Garden of Eden, which was an intentional plot device for Chekhov to say it was just outside of Moscow. So, minus 1 point for the plot device instead. 17 kilometers is pretty far. That's like a 3-hour walk. So minus 1 point for not beaming them closer. The last time he saw a spraying plant, it made him super happy. So of course he wants to investigate. But this time the plant kills him. Aww. The other security guards just watch it all happen. So they won't be calling it the Garden of Eden outside Moscow anymore. We never learn if Hendorf's body ever got beamed up, since Scotty is reporting power problems. But he also didn't report it later. So my guess is they beamed his body up. Scotty wants to stop and smell the flowers too, but that's usually a bad idea in Star Trek. All the pretty planets usually try to kill them. I can't believe Scotty talked about Spock and McCoy like this. The next point is lost here since Kirk sniffs a flower. Seriously? Didn't he just watch Hendorf get killed by an attack plant? You're not alone on this one, Spock. Can you imagine the gravestone of one of the greatest Starfleet captains with an incredible combat and peacekeeping record saying, killed because he sniffed a flower? Spock's description of what he found sounds similar to the planet in Shore Leave. 2 of the security guards are sent on a recon mission. This is great advice, which means you probably shouldn't pick up and throw rocks either. 1 point is lost here. I know romance can happen anywhere, but Chekhov is pretty sleazy, making his move right after someone got killed. And his pickup lines are pretty lame. Kirk's response is the polite Starfleet way of telling them to find a hotel. After all, their lip blocking later will get another red shirt killed. This is Chekhov's way of saying, no sir, that's not what we were doing at all. Instead of seeking out the native, they just let themselves be watched. This may be their first contact procedure to let them know they aren't a threat. Of course, it would be nice if Okuda came out and warned them about the killer plants and rocks. Formation L means the security guard goes in front of everybody. That's a first for Star Trek. Usually he's behind Kirk and Spock. Minus 1 point here for Spock picking up, breaking, and throwing a rock on a dangerous planet. He should have scanned it with a tricorder first. Unfortunately, Spock will have to wait 6 more years before he can say this to a woman again. Okuda is here hiding behind the trees. As far as he is concerned, at the rate these strangers are going, there won't be any left to make it to the village, so they aren't a threat. Spock states the obvious. Shout out to security actually leading the way. In many of the Star Trek episodes, they're behind Kirk and Spock. Spock saves the life of the captain. Yes! But he loses a point in his fall. He obviously wants to land on his back. And I will have to take a point for security aiming his phaser at their backs. That's just dangerous. This might be the only time Kirk cancels the landing party mission. But the Enterprise is slowly being drained of power and they're stuck on the planet. If you can't beam a fly up, you should at least consider using a shuttlecraft. Their power source might not be noticed. But they didn't do that, so minus 1 point. 1 point is lost for the captain's log, re-explaining to the audience what just happened before the commercial break, since they think you forgot what happened just 2 minutes ago. Here is where Spock and McCoy bicker like they've been married for 30 years. It's in their contract to do that at least once each episode, which is followed by the weekly banter between Kirk and Spock. Kaplan and Spock both tug their shirts, just like Captain Picard. That's why it's called the Picard Maneuver. The last time I saw these clouds, there was a flying house involved. They see it too and say, "It's not a bird or a plane, is it?" The flying house distracted them enough for the storm to zap Kaplan. There goes another one. After 2 poisonous plant attacks, an exploding rock, and killer lightning, Kirk grabs another flower. He won't ever learn, will he? Mallory reports from scouting the village, but what did he see? I don't think we'll ever find out. Shout out to the set designers for getting all those trees in that little stage. In reality, Mallory's leg should be blown completely off. We never know what he really saw, but we do know his father helped Kirk get into the academy, which is why Kirk is so upset right now. In this philosophical speech, Kirk admits he shouldn't have stopped to smell the flowers. And here comes the Kirk version of First Contact, a right hook. Not necessarily the right way to do things, but 3 of his men did just get killed, and they probably think Okuda is causing this. This is Okuda. He is the eyes and ears for Vol. He speaks for Vol. I think I saw this on another show somewhere.
I am the Lorax. I speak for the trees.
We never really learn the history of how this all started. Vol is powerful. He is managing to pull the Enterprise down from orbit. Kirk actually threatens to fire Scotty. Here is Vol. Shout out to the set designers for creating the giant snake head. It was only made of paper mache, and the designers begged for it not to be destroyed, which is why it still stood after they phasered it. Of course, after 50 years, it has probably gotten lost, but if you're a Trekkie, this would be a great ornament to build and put in your backyard, or for the next Star Trek invasion, this would be perfect for the entrance.
Yes!
Spock points out the center of the device is deep underground, which is another reason Scotty aimed for that instead of the snakehead, which is just an access point. Spock says 30 feet. Twice he didn't use a metric system, and that's why Vol zapped him. Chekhov and Landon thought it was funny. When they enter the village, the first thing Kirk notices is the lack of children. This concern is because the night before he watched Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, where all the children in the town were missing and imprisoned. This is where we learn children aren't needed here, and Vol has banned anything involving the birds and the bees.
Well, there goes paradise.
This explanation to the locals gives Chekhov another chance to make his move. The people of Vol welcome strangers just like Ferengi, and they have the same plants you can find on Betazet. Spock isn't much of an animal person, is he? And we never really learn why they think his name is so funny. One day they watched The Road to Bali, which inspired them on how to build their village. The people of Vol are very hospitable. This would be a great time to ask the natives how to avoid the killer plants, but they didn't, so -1 point. Back on the Enterprise, Scotty reports some serious issues. This is actually worse than when Apollo had them stuck in orbit. Vol is pulling them down. And this is the only time in the original series where they mention separating the saucer section. If this is so serious, Scotty should send out a distress call now so they can abandon a sinking ship. But he didn't, so -1 more point. McCoy and Spock give the reports. The people aren't aging, and the atmosphere blocks any harmful radiation from the sun. The description matches the long lives of people before Noah's flood, and the theory an ice sheet blocked the radiation that caused people to age. It may be a paradise for the people of Vol, but for newcomers it's deadly. The planet even cured Kirk's vision problems. The dinner bell rang. Just how often does it ring? Vol will need to eat quite a bit considering how much power he is using up right now. Unfortunately, there is no gender equality here on the planet. The women should be allowed to dress just like the men. So while the 3 watch from a distance, Kirk has Scotty measure the energy of Vol, and Spock and McCoy argue about this culture. Spock says it works, McCoy says it is stagnant. And again, Scotty always gets the best lines. A Wortham unit is a Trek term. Kirk's relaxed nature in this tense situation is similar to how he acted in Star Trek II. Even though 2 of his crew have died here, he knows freaking out is the last thing you should do. The next point is lost here in the bungalow. Their conversation about reproduction is a little outdated. Yeoman Landon is too naive here. After all, she is a college graduate, and Kirk and Spock are too reluctant to answer questions she should already know the answers to. Okuda sucks up to the boss just like Quark. Chekhov makes his move on Landon again. After all, if the Enterprise is going to burn up in the atmosphere, there really is only one thing left to do. I think he learned this pickup line from watching Independence Day.
This could be our last night on Earth.
You don't want to die a virgin, do you?
Of course, the kids are watching, and now they want to try it out. That hand's getting a little close there. Now they've done it. Vol is angry. And Okuda's like, shit, I'm really going to hear about this one. This is definitely an Adam and Eve type story. The verdict is out. Vol has instructed them to kill the newcomers. Spock believes their plan violates the Prime Directive. Kirk says the Enterprise will plunge into the atmosphere if we don't. Kirk tries to communicate with Vol. Picard would have tried communicating first. Vol's response is to bring on the lightning and zap Spock. This is the third time. Obviously, Vol does not like Spock. 300 years in the future, second-degree burns will be considered not that serious. The fight scene looks a lot like a video game fight when you're on level 1. The people of Vol haven't been trained too well, but they do manage to kill the final security guard. And Landon gets to show off her prowess at self-defense. The showdown begins, but Vol still has enough strength to knock the Enterprise around and throw Scotty back into the captain's chair. And as you can see, the chair isn't bolted down, so minus 1 more point. Scotty broke his chair, so Kirk fires him. Vol rings the dinner bell, and it is Hail Mary time for Kirk. He is going to go for broke. Of course, Spock's tricorder is backwards, so minus 1 point. The battle begins between Scotty on the Enterprise and a creature on the ground that considers itself a god. Didn't they do this just a few weeks ago? Their biggest concern is that this could last forever. They really don't know how much power Vol has saved up. And Scotty is aiming at the power source, not Vol's head. That's why the head doesn't get destroyed. Vol spits out his last breath. I think his people are going to be just as sad as this guy. Vol is dead, and power on the Enterprise is returning. But now Okuda and the people are going to be quite lost. Kirk's response is that they can take care of themselves. So I will have to take a point since they never put a research team on the ground to help them out. They did this on Mary and Return of the Archons, 2 other times where Kirk broke the Prime Directive. Then he tells them it's okay to have sex now, so they're like, yay, goodbye Vol. This turned out to be a pretty good screenshot. And as the Enterprise flies off into the sunset after breaking the Prime Directive and destroying the god that took care of the people for 1,000 years, you think they might starve to death. Or there must be an incredible orgy going on down there since they are seriously going to make up for some lost time. If you think 7 years is bad for Vulcans, imagine going dry for 1,000 years. The last point is lost here, not because Kirk is doing the Picard maneuver, but Kirk and McCoy are insulting Spock, comparing him to Satan. It had nothing to do with the conversation or the concerns Spock brought up. It is just an out-of-date and out-of-place insult now. So, who were the people of Vol? Mal Friedman played Hendorf. Dick Dial played Kaplan and was a stunt double. Jay Jones played Mallory, and he was a stunt double on Star Trek. Jerry Daniels played Marple. John Winston played Commander Kyle. They asked if he wanted to go to the surface that day, and he said, hell no. The part of Mayana was played by Sherry Nims. Bakura was played by David Soul, who went on to star in Here Come the Brides with Mark Leonard and Robert Brown, then to Starsky and Hutch fame. Okuda was played by Keith Andes, who had an incredible acting career. He served in the Air Force during World War II. He even performed in the play Wildcat with Lucille Ball, and played Don Quixote in 400 performances of Man of La Mancha. He also had a part in Buck Rogers. Unfortunately, in his senior years, he suffered from several illnesses and ended his own life at the age of 85. Yeoman Landon was played by Celeste Yarnell. She was a model and actress, along with many other talents, including real estate and cat breeding. Elvis sang to her in the movie Live a Little, Love a Little. Unfortunately, ovarian cancer caught up to her, but even in the hospital bed, she still showed that Star Trek spirit. And the apple gets a final score of 83%. Next week on Honey, I Shrunk the Enterprise, this character is going to meet this character. Stay tuned. That's all for now. Thanks for viewing. Be sure to leave your comments below. Click that like button, the share button, the subscribe button, and I will see you again soon.